Wonderful. We are recording this session so that we can post a recording for a short time on our guide page of our School of Education guide, available for anyone to take a peek. But let's go ahead and get started, everybody. So I want to welcome you tonight to the ECE webinar series for spring 2022. This is our May session. We had April sessions were taken with Week of the Young Child, so this is really the first one of our official webinar series for the spring 2022, and we'll be hosting another one again in June. We will have a summer session this year that will be for July, August, and September, and information about that will likely come out at the very end of June. So you want to keep your eyes open for that to be posted on social media, as well as hopefully emails get sent to you. We've figured out what our glitches are, fingers crossed, for those emails, so hopefully all will work out well. My name is Mary Moose, and I am the Department Chair for Early Childhood Education and Human Services with Rasmussen University. I am thrilled to have you here tonight. So let's just jump right in and do some housekeeping. I would be completely bad at my job if I didn't have a shameless plug, as I always say, for our early childhood education degrees at Rasmussen. We do have fully online early childhood education degrees, from a certificate and a diploma through to an associate's degree and a bachelor completer degree. For those of you that may not have completed an associate's degree, or maybe started a bachelor's degree, kind of those people that have a lot of credits that don't add up to an official degree, I guess is the best way to put it. And so I hope that, let me just double check here. Let me make sure to go back a slide or two here. This is for the few people that are still joining us that need to hook up their audio. But just know that our associate and our bachelor completer degrees are fully online. And the really exciting part about it is that just a short time ago, we launched a new tuition rate for our diploma, certificate, and associate degrees to really help boost the need for qualified early childhood educators out there in the world. So this just started for our April students starting going forward. So if you know of anyone who's looking to start a degree or complete a degree, this may be an option for them. So this is all on our website, so you're welcome to take a peek. Whoops, happy little, excited little remote there. These are all up on our website. So we do have a pretty supportive transfer credit opportunity for those of you coming in with other credits from other universities, as well as a CDA credential, and even some other specific state credentials, such as the Wisconsin Registry credentials, for example. So take a peek at our website, or you can join me for, oh my goodness, my mouse. You can join me for an ECE information session. So our next one is actually next Tuesday, May 17th at 8 p.m. Usually they're pretty short. I try and keep them at a half an hour. Sometimes we need to stay longer for questions and that sort of thing, and that's perfectly okay. We hope that you have an opportunity to join us. If you do, you can go to our website to register and get the information about the live session, and we'll see you there. You can also share that with a friend if you know of somebody else who might be interested. So let's talk a little bit about the WebEx room that we're in. You have been muted to avoid background noise because you're probably at home where there's lots of stuff going on around you. We do recommend you use your computer speakers and microphone, but you can flip back and forth. You can go to a phone, you can go to a computer, and if at some point you're having a lot of audio issues, you may just need to switch your audio, so you may go from phone to computer or back and forth. You may also just need to exit out and come back in. We don't close the room, so you can do that because we know technology is technology and it will do what it will. So that way you'll be able to kind of restart and reset and come back into the session. If you have comments, if you want to answer the questions, share great stories, share your comments about the presentation, we want you to. We know that unmuting might be a little bit loud for everyone, so you're welcome, and we encourage you to put your comments, questions, and such in the chat box. You want to make sure, though, that the little drop down above the chat box, where it says, it should say all participants. It'll say send to, and then all participants would be the goal. That way everyone can see it, the presenter, myself as the host, other people that are in the session as well. That way sometimes one question by one person is a question a lot of other people had too, or sometimes your comments can really inspire and help support one another. So feel free to chat away in the chat box. We'd love it. You do have one in-service hour awarded for attending tonight's session. You will receive a certificate. I know those of you that were here in April, it's kind of a crazy, crazy time with emails, but we think we got the glitch fixed, we hope. So you will receive a certificate by email within 48 business hours of this session. So we do say usually by Monday night, you should receive an email with a link in the email to your certificate. So an example of one that's been recent is right here on the right. You do need to participate in the entire session to receive the certificate, so you can't log in now and then log out and then come back in for the last minute. You do need to be here for the whole session. Certificates are sent by email to the email provided at registration. So hopefully, because you're here, you put in the right email, so you should be able to get it there. And you want to check your junk or spam folders just in case, because sometimes it still goes there, and sometimes it'll go there even if you've received them properly in the past. You know, if email permissions and such and security changes, it can pop them right into that lovely spam or junk folder, and you won't even realize it. So I want to take a moment now to welcome our facilitator, and I'm going to turn over the reins to her in just a moment. I want you to say hello to Alyssa Thorp. Alyssa is the Senior Manager for Family Relations with Nanny and Sitter Services at College Nannies, Sitters, and Tutors. She can probably explain her role much better than I can, as obviously she lives and breathes it every day. But we wanted Alyssa to be able to come by to share a little bit with you about learning through play. So I'm going to give the ball over to Alyssa and unmute her here.
Hello.
Hello there. Luckily you're at the top of our list here. It makes it so much easier.
Okay.
To give you the ball.
Awesome. All right, so as Mary had stated, I'm Alyssa Thorp, College Nannies, Sitters, and Tutors. So my role essentially is helping families and nannies and caregivers basically find one another. So doing a lot of kind of backwork and groundwork on both sides to find those perfect matches for each. And I actually did go to school for early childhood and special education. So I have a background in education as well. So super excited to be here with you guys this evening and talk with you about learning through play. It's one of my favorite pieces, and I think it's one of the most fun parts of our jobs as caregivers. So we'll go ahead and jump right in. So play has lots of different sorts of definitions, depending on who you're asking or who is giving the definition. So I have a couple of different definitions here. So according to the Encyclopedia of Early Childhood Development, play is a legitimate right of childhood, representing a crucial aspect of children's physical, intellectual, and social development. According to Wikipedia, play is a range of intrinsically motivated activities done for recreational pleasure and enjoyment. Play is commonly associated with children and juvenile level activities, but play occurs at any life stage and among other higher functioning animals as well, most notably mammals and birds. According to Merriam-Webster, play is a recreational activity, especially the spontaneous activity of children. So why is play important? I mean, we think about play and it seems like it's just having fun and just, you know, doing things together and passing the time, right? But play is very important, and especially in learning development. So that's really what we're going to talk about and focus on today here. So according to the Academy of Pediatrics, American Academy of Pediatrics, play is essential to development because it contributes to the cognitive, physical, social, and emotional well-being of children and youth. Play also offers an ideal opportunity for parents to engage fully with their children. So there's lots of different skills that the children will really develop and refine throughout their years of play, depending on what age and stage they're at. So some of those skills would include cognitive, so things like math, problem solving, pretending, play pretend grocery store, those kinds of skills. Physical abilities, so like balancing blocks, running on the playground. learning new vocabulary words. So the words they need to use to play with toy dinosaurs, those are some big words that kids always surprise me when a 4-year-old knows what the name of a dinosaur is. And of course, ask you what your favorite dinosaur is. Social skills, like playing together, doing a pretend car wash. Literacy skills, so things like creating a menu for a pretend restaurant, knowing what the words are, writing them down, making that menu for the people to come in and see and play pretend with you. But also, it really helps reduce stress in children. It helps them get their wiggles out. It helps them really interact and get everything from their day to kind of reset. It's a reset button for a lot of kids. It helps build imagination and creativity. It really allows children to navigate social and emotional problem solving. It teaches teamwork, working together to reach a common goal. So a lot of games, especially as kids get older, they're working together to achieve a common goal, which is a great skill to have for later on in life. And another thing is it really fosters fine and large motor skills. So playing with those blocks is really great for fine motor skills, but then also running around and jumping and playing tag is great for those larger motor skills. So I understand that a lot of us may already be in the early childhood field, maybe some are still learning, maybe some are brand new. So I'm going to try to give some background here on some of the theorists that I'm going to talk about today, just so you have a little bit of an idea of who these people are and really where these ideas of learning through play come from. So the first one is Mildred Partridge, and she identified 6 stages of play that children develop through. So the first one is unoccupied. Second is solitary, an onlooker, parallel, associative, and cooperative. And we'll go through those in a little bit, specifically piece by piece. The next theorist is Erik Erikson. So he really identified 8 stages of psychosocial development. So starting at infancy, trust versus mistrust. When they come into early childhood, autonomy versus shame and doubt. In the preschool years, initiative versus guilt. School age is industry versus inferiority. In adolescence, it's identity versus role confusion. Young adulthood, it's intimacy versus isolation. In middle adulthood, it's generativity versus stagnation. And in maturity, it's integrity versus despair. So those are kind of the stages that we all sort of work through as we get older. And then Jean Piaget, he's one that I'm sure a lot of you hear about too. He really developed 4 stages of play. So the first is sensory motor, so birth to about age 2. That's really when they're learning object permanence. So object permanence, the best way to describe it, or how I usually describe it, is like playing peekaboo. So it's understanding that something's still there even though you can't see it. Pre-operational, 2 to 7 years of age, and it's really starting that symbolic thought. Then it goes into concrete operational from 7 years to 11 years. That's when they're going to start having those operational thinking, start thinking, 1, 2, 3, things are in order, having that sort of thought. And then we get into formal operational, which is 11 years all the way up until adulthood, and that's really when we start to grasp those abstract concepts. The next one is Lev Vygotsky. So he talks a lot about the zone of proximal development, which is the space between what a learner can do without assistance and what a learner can do with adult guidance or in cooperation with more capable peers. So as we get older, obviously that zone really starts to dwindle down and diminish as we are able to do more and more on our own. So going back to Mildred Partridge's social behavioral theory, there's, again, 6 ways. I have 5 ways on there, but there's 6 different ways that children really play. So the first one is unoccupied play. So unoccupied play really looks like babies, young children, they're exploring the materials around them really without any sort of organization. So this stage really allows children to practice manipulating materials, mastering their self-control, and really learning how the world around them works. The second type of play is solitary play. So as children get older, kind of more toddler age, you're going to see this, and this really is where children entertain themselves without any other social involvement. So, kids can go off and play by themselves for hours at a time. So children in this type of play are just by themselves. They're not engaging not only with peers, but not with adults either. It's just by themselves. You may also notice that they don't children in solitary play may not notice or acknowledge other children. They may just play by themselves. Sometimes they will acknowledge other children, but mostly it's just by themselves. Onlooker play. So then this is where they're really going to start watching other kids and how they play. And this is really important because this is where they start to learn that social interaction between one child and another. So they're learning those cues of when do I respond, when do I ask, when do I jump in, and really starting to have those social cues come together through onlooker play. So then they'll feel comfortable to then jump in to parallel play. So this is great because kids can play side by side together. They might not necessarily interact with one another, but they're playing together, usually like you can see in the picture with the same toy or maybe Legos or blocks or something like that, where they're playing next to each other. They may talk to one another or interact back and forth, but they're not playing together. The next step is an associative play. So now this is where they're going to start playing together. So instead of being focused on the activity or the object that they're playing with, they're going to be more interested in the other children who are playing with them. So associative play, along with the skills learned from onlooker play, really give them the skills that they need to jump in to be able to play with the other kids. And then finally is cooperative play. So this play is now going to establish efforts between different players. It's really going to start bringing in rules, boundaries, things like that are going to come into play. So this is an advanced skill, but it also comes with challenges. So this is where conflict is going to start to come up, which is very normal. Children have to learn to take turns, to follow the rules, to work together as a team. So this is a great type of play for those younger kids who are just starting to learn how to follow those rules. So here's a picture for you guys to kind of be able to see the different types of play in action. So unoccupied, as you can see, not really engaged in anything at all or anyone at all, just kind of by themselves. Solitary, playing by themselves. Onlooker, obviously watching, seeing what's going on, what's happening, learning those social skills to be able to jump in. Parallel play, side by side, working sometimes on the same project, but not necessarily together. Associative, starting to be more engaged with one another, working together. And then cooperative is where they're really going to all start working together for one common goal, or following rules, or engaging with one another on a higher level. So any questions on the types of play before we move on?
I think, Alyssa, one comment that Joni made in the chat is it's so important to encourage solitary play, because we often make it like it's not okay to play alone, like that's a problem for kids to play alone, and we don't encourage that, and that it's okay and actually really great to play alone. You know, and you don't want to force children to play with others if they're not ready. Absolutely. Or if they're not in the right frame of mind, to play with others, that all these forms of play are perfectly okay.
Absolutely. Yeah, and the other great thing about solitary play too is that sometimes kids they want to engage and they want to be able to unwind, but sometimes playing with other kids or near other kids is really overwhelming or overstimulating even too. So being able to have that safe place for them to play by themselves, absolutely encourage.
And that's important to help parents remember, because I think we're always wanting our kids to be social. And, so, social's great, but you do need your time by yourself. And it's important, for your own mental well-being.
Absolutely. I mean, even if you think as adults, at the end of the day, we like to have our downtime, our relaxed time. And for a lot of kids, they can get some of that pent-up energy out through playing by themselves in their room with their own toys, and I think it's great. Yeah.
Cool. Thank you.
Okay, so now we're going to go into different types of play. So the first one we're going to talk about is social play. So this is going to circle back to Erickson, who we had talked about earlier. So he really talks about social interaction, and experience play is really a major role in development. So social play is going to focus on the interaction between the play participants. So at a younger age, usually it's going to be between two participants. But as the children get older, as we kind of talked about before, they're going to tend to add more participants in. So here they're really learning communication, the importance of working together, taking turns, and being patient. So social play is going to go hand in hand with some of those other types of play that we had just talked about as well. So some examples for social play at different ages. For infants, it would be like peekaboo. For toddlers, when everyone is sitting around together and they've got the parachute and they're all, working together to do the parachute, that's always a fun activity. For preschoolers, it could be playing hide and seek. For school-age kids, it could be something like playing tag. So any other types of social play that you guys like to do or you can think of? I don't know if you see any in the chat there. Oh, okay, we can move on.
I was muted.
Okay.
Not yet. What other types of social play? Arguing with your siblings? No.
A lot of times, a lot of these types of play too will kind of bridge to one another. So social play and pretend play, which we'll talk about in a little bit, go hand in hand too. Yep, cooking in the kitchen, that's a great one. Mm-hmm. That's a great way to interact socially for older kids. So really just any type of play that involves talking or working together.
Yeah, I love it. Donna's pre-K class is starting to work on board games. Oh,
fun.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh, finger play. Yep, songs and finger plays. That's great. Yeah, absolutely. Dramatic play too. Yep. Those are all great ideas. Okay, so then the next one is object play. So this is really straightforward as it sounds. It's learning through the manipulation of the object or the toy that they're playing with. Oftentimes it's used in correlation with pretend play. And really the goal here is learning cause and effect. So infants, it's putting toys in their mouth, right? They really learn about their world through putting things in their mouth. So they're manipulating those objects in their mouths. For toddlers, it's building block towers and seeing, how tall you can get it before it's going to fall down. For preschoolers, it's things like playing with cars or playing with dolls. So, if you drive the car too fast, it could, flip over. For school-age kids, it's board games. Like, for example, Sorry is a great board game where you learn a lot of cause and effect. So what other types of object play could you guys think of? Lots of play also involves, having something that you're playing with as well too. So, lights and shadows, Legos, yep. Legos are great, yeah. I've got a couple of people saying that. Manipulative, yep. Puzzles are great, yep. Absolutely. All right, so we'll move on to the next type here, which is language play. Mm-hmm. So this is going to now circle back to Piaget and his theory of language development. So suggesting that children use both assimilation and accommodation to learn language. So assimilation is the process of changing one's environment to place information into a pre-existing idea, versus accommodation is the process of changing an idea to adapt to the new environment. So as all of us know who work in early education or even just with kids in general, language develops at a very fast rate. So play can really help develop language skills, speech sounds, the meaning of words, and how and when to use specific words. So some examples of language play. For infants, it's mirroring faces. It's making sounds, and the infant is mimicking those back to you. For toddlers, it's vocalizing the names of colors and shapes, what they're playing with, narrating what they're doing. For example, it looks like you're putting the orange carrot into the cooking pot, or what is the color carrot you're holding? For preschool, it's really talking through what's happening. It's saying like, wow, your car is driving super fast on the racetrack. It's giving those words to what they're doing, what they're playing with, so they can start to make those associations. And for school age, it's articulating the rules of a game or following those specific rules, using language in what they're doing to be able to have those interactions with their peers. So any other types of language play that you guys can think of? Yep, finger plays and songs. But reading would absolutely count, yeah. Especially if you're reading a fun book, like our favorites are, oh goodness, what's the name of the author? She does all of the, like, Barnyard Dance. No, I can't think of her name. Sandra Boynton. She's fantastic. We love all of her books. Super rhymey. Asking, yeah, toddlers to pick up the cards with green on them. Yes, so when you're doing cleanup, saying, hey, let's pick up everything that's the color X or everything that's the color Y. Bingo's great too. Nursery rhymes, absolutely. Yes, those are all great. Wonderful. So then the next type of play is pretend play. So here's where Vygotsky is going to circle in. So social interaction is really central to learning, specifically focused on dramatic and make-believe play. So pretend play is creating a new use for an object or acting out a specific role or activity. So some examples there. For infants, really the skill isn't going to develop until 15 months or so. But for toddlers, it could be things like playing with dolls or action figures, playing out scenarios. I know my son was obsessed with walking around and pretending he was a dog when he was a toddler. So things like that, right? For preschool, dressing up and acting out different roles. A lot of preschools have dramatic play areas, which is fantastic, and those rotate out on a, sometimes weekly or monthly basis to have new activities for the kids to do. For school age, it's things like creating backstories for characters that they're playing. So things like, for example, my family likes to play Dungeons and Dragons together. So it's creating those backstories for those characters to be able to have ideas and figure out who they are, give them an identity of their own. So what are some other types of pretend play that you guys can think of here? Using blocks as phones, yep. A banana for telephone, love it. I was about your age when I was a cat, that's cute. Yep, the little people, those are great, yeah, and acting those out for sure. Kitchen cooking, yep. Yeah, those are all great ways to pretend play with kids. So one thing too that I definitely want to touch on before we kind of finish out our time here together is really around, we're obviously watching the children play, we're working with the children on a daily basis, but we also want to be sure that we're watching for certain things or certain behaviors that can sometimes come up in play that can sometimes be cause for concern, or at the very least, we need to be sure that we're vocalizing that we're seeing these things to the children's parents. So some things to really watch for would be things like extreme fear. So could be extreme fear of a certain toy. It could be extreme fear of playing with other kids. It could be extreme fear of doing a certain activity. Extreme aggression. So again, it could be extreme aggression towards another child. It could be extreme aggression with a toy. It could be acting out extreme aggression. Not engaging with others. So this would be different than solitary play. Again, as we talked about, kids definitely need their alone time and to play by themselves, but in some instances, they may not be playing at all with other children. And so that's something we want to be on the lookout for as well. Not understanding the difference in fantasy and reality. So sometimes those lines can be a little bit blurred, and so we need to be sure that we're watching for that. Not expressing emotion. So if you have a child who's playing and you're not seeing, happy or sad or angry or excited, if you're not seeing those big emotions, that sometimes can be something to be on the lookout for. Not playing with toys expected for their age. Preferring to play alone, so seeking out, a place to play by themselves on a day-to-day basis. Again, not in association with solitary play and needing that alone time, but this is on a more consistent basis. And then, of course, difficulty following rules. So they're not quite following the rules or the guidelines that have been set forth by whether it's a board game or the teacher or whatever it is that you're engaged in. So now I would love to hear from you guys. I know you guys are very active in the chat, so this is great. So why do we think, or why do you think that play is so important, or why is playing so important to you as an early childhood educator?
Alyssa, can I just bring up something from the last slide that you
Sure.
had really
Yeah.
quick
Let me pull it up.
before, as people are typing? I think these are really like critical for us to pay attention to. I think if we don't give children time to play, meaning free play, open-ended play, not play that's told to, where they're in small groups and they're told to do certain things or asked to play with certain materials.
Yeah.
If we don't give them time to do this, we will be missing a lot of really key developmental warning signs.
Yes.
For everything from mental health issues to developmental issues such as autism, to learning delays, to potential child abuse, signs of child abuse. I mean, it could just be, yeah, they're being obstinate and not wanting to follow the rules, but are they that way all the time? Where it's not just a personality that day thing, it's everything. And I think we do our children a disservice when we don't give them that time to play where we can observe them.
Absolutely.
Doing this. And I think, in our world, I think we miss a lot of that. And then, kids end up really struggling when they get into the school years, where they're in elementary school, and there really isn't this time to play. I wonder how much we miss.
Yeah, absolutely. And I even think too, it's so important, especially when you get, because a lot of times we think about early childhood, but even when you get into those school age kids, play is so very important, because if you think about the kids sitting in class all day, they're sitting there, they have to listen. They maybe get, 15, 20 minutes to run around outside at recess or at gym, but, they come home at the end of the day and they're exhausted. We need to give them that outlet to be able to just be kids, to have that social interaction, to get their wiggles out, to, just decompress from the day. And we can, sometimes see some of these things in children, and we can, as to your point, we can miss them if we don't allow them to play. So a lot of these natural sorts of personality traits and behaviors are going to come out through play. And so it's a great natural way for us to observe these tiny little personalities.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I just heard somebody or saw something somewhere that told me that childhood is such a finite time, and if you think about how long children are children in comparison to how long that they live, you realize how small of a time period that really is.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we try to rush it, so it's really depressing. But anyway, I'll let you keep going. Lots of comments in this.
Yes, no, it's great. I'm trying to keep up on all of them too. You guys have such a lot of great pieces here. I saw a lot of people responding to why do you think play is so important. Seeing a lot on like learning, social interaction, exploring the world around them, social emotional development skills, all of that. It's absolutely all of those things. Play is one of the best things that we can do and provide for children. So what types of play do you guys really enjoy doing or engaging when you're working with children? What are some fun things you like to do? I always love to get new ideas for play. That's why I'm asking this question too. And I think it's great to hear from other people and see what other people do that works. So earlier said free art. Oh, gardening. I love gardening. That's so much fun, especially with little kids. Outside art activities, yes. Sensory tables, yep. Absolutely. Oh, colored blocks. Yep, for sure. Loose parts following their lead with materials. Awesome. That's fun. So like, Helen, are you saying like give them a bunch of pieces and let them kind of put it together? That's kind of a neat idea. Digging in the dirt to see what we can find. Pulling out worms and bugs. That's always really fun with little kids. Sensory bins and light tables. Yep. Digging. Water tables with sensory materials. Yeah, for sure. So kind of thinking back to the types of play that we talked about today, what would you say is really your favorite type of play to engage with children? I know a lot of them, again, really cross over, but I think everyone kind of has their favorite type of play that they like to do. So we have Child-led play, outdoor play, dramatic play, pretend play. Pretend play. I think that pretend play is one of my favorites too. It really allows you to see these little personalities come out. Make up games, that's really fun too, especially when you have little kids and I'm sure we've all been there where you're playing with a 3-year-old and they're making up their own rules to the game and you have to, you know, put your hand on your head and jump in a circle 3 times while saying the color blue, right, where they make up their own fun games. That's always fun. Pretend play, word play, reading out loud and outdoor activities, absolutely. So really, what do you think children can learn from play? What do you think is the biggest piece that they really take away from play? Social development, everything. Yep, absolutely. And it really is everything too, right? There's learning to share, problem-solving skills, yeah. Basic building blocks for all developmental areas, absolutely. They're learning. Essentially, play is a way for them to learn how to operate in society as an adult, right? Because they're learning how to cooperate, they're learning how to engage, they're learning how to interact with the world and people around them, how to share, how to make friends, how to be a human amongst others, absolutely. How to be kind, right? How to be kind to one another, to you know, help one another out. Cooperation, exploring their imagination, absolutely. So really want to kind of ask you, you know, based on what we talked about today, how are you going to change the way you play with children to really help them learn and grow? What will you do differently? Oh, brain synapses, I love that. That was one of the big things when I was going to school for early childhood too. Yes, absolutely, making those great brain connections. Cooperative skills, social emotional development, connecting one by one, and I can see they really appreciate it. We play with them and can have the opportunity to work through emotions. Absolutely. Wonderful. So I guess I'll, before I kind of wrap up here, open it up to if you guys have any questions about what I went through today. I can certainly try to answer them for you, or with the help of Mary too here.
Oh, I have one, because I know I did a session on it back at the early part of April, but I don't think it's something that we can ever talk more. I can't speak tonight. I don't think I don't think we could talk enough about it. How about that? Is how do you explain the critical need for play to parents?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. I think even just going through what we talked through today, associating it to these are the skills, the building blocks, the foundation of helping them to be able to function and to be, you know, a part of society later on. This is really, it seems like it's just they're having fun, right? But they're learning so much. And I think when you break it down, like, you know, you see them, okay, they're over there playing a board game right now, right? It looks like they're just playing a board game, but they're playing Monopoly. So they're doing money, they're doing math, right? They're counting out how much money they need. They're rolling the dice. They're counting the spaces. They're manipulating, you know, fine motor skills, or putting the little houses on, or doing, you know, walking the little dog around. They're learning cooperation. They're playing with one another. They're learning cause and effect. If I spend all my money on the first 4 rolls, then I'm not going to have any money left for the rest of the game. So I think breaking it down so parents have a better understanding of really what play means and what it's all about, I think is very important, and a great way to have parents connect to, oh, I guess they are learning. Yep, tell parents they're only young once. Yeah, kind of circling back to that as well. Yep.
Yeah, because I think that's so hard. I almost wonder if sharing with parents more of the theoretical background, like you discussed earlier, would be helpful for them, because we're so conscientious about making sure we you know, talk to them about how we're teaching reading, how we're teaching math, you know, and now with STEM, you know, everything STEM, STEM, STEM.
Mm-hmm.
You know, all of those skills and things can be learned through play. So
Absolutely.
do we need to go back and instead of talking to parents about how children learn those in those subject areas, just talking to them about how children learn from play and going back to those theories that it's legit, people.
Yeah.
You know, there's some background here to back us up, but we're not just making it up, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think sometimes talking about the different theorists and what they talk about and sharing those pieces too is important, because then they understand like, oh, well, there's actually, you know, scientific research or studies that have been done behind this that prove that play is important.
Very true.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions? My welcome letter to parents. Explain how my child's job is to play and how much they learn from play. That's great. That's awesome. I love that. This has them asking me questions about how important play is. That's awesome.
That is
I love
great.
to hear that. Yeah. Do they seem to respond well once you talk with them about how important play is? Do they seem to then understand when you kind of explain that or break it down? Carrie or Kari, I'm not sure how you pronounce it. Child has a hard time learning to share. Send home a note saying your child shared today for the first time while playing. That's great too. Yeah. So engaging what they're working on at home or what you guys are working on, how that helped or how play helped. Yeah, absolutely. That's great. Those are all great pieces. Wonderful. Oh, they love it. That's great. I'm so excited. So after you explain it, they love it. That's great to hear. Parents usually, I think, once you break it down to them, they're usually really, really understanding. So that's good to hear.
So since we've got some great comments here, I have another question. Can I just ask all the questions? Ooh, it's decided to get really dark. So just so people know, here in Minnesota, there's quite a few of you on the call from Minnesota. Just so you know, we got some pretty awful storms last night, knocked out power to my house at least. I was thinking, well, if it was tomorrow night, we would be done with our webinar. So if by chance something were to happen in the next 15 minutes or 10 minutes and power does go out or you need to jump off, go right ahead. Storms are more important than any webinar.
Please do.
Take your safety if you need to, because I don't know exactly where all of you are calling from. You've been in the basement already, Leo. Oh my goodness.
We should safe there.
Yes. Oh my gosh. So please, you know, take care of yourself first and foremost. As I'm watching the trees out at my front yard, starting to thrash around a bit. So yeah, currently sitting in your basement. Yep, there you go. So it's Minnesota in the spring. So stay safe, everybody, and we'll just finish. But my question is then how do we? So we're talking to parents about this. How do we convince our programs we work in the importance of true play? Like I think Helen, somebody pointed it out earlier that directed play isn't play, or direction isn't play. So how do we, does anyone have ideas for how we can talk to our program leadership or our coworkers and help convince them? Other than sending them to Rasmussen University for a degree, but no. But seriously, how can you help convince others that are not, or not on the same train?
Yeah, educate and share information, absolutely. Request a meeting and show documents or recordings of progress. Yep. Lead by example. That's great. I think we sometimes think that, play has to be, some educators, right, think that play has to be directed or, this is how we're playing today or this is what we're playing today. And I think we miss the importance of free play and giving the children the choice to play what and how they want, right? Free play is so very important, because I think even when you stand back in a classroom, wow, now I can't talk today, you can overlook and you can see all of the different types of play in action, and you can, see that some children may choose to do solitary play. They may choose to go be by themselves. Some children may all run over to the dramatic play area because this week, the firefighter outfits are out and they all want to play firefighters. I think that's all really great too. Showing results and recorded data, yep, absolutely. I think that we certainly can do that, especially as educators. I think we all know and understand the importance too of how important it is to continually educate ourselves, and to be able to take feedback from your peers and also continue your education and continue your learning. So hopefully they would be open to hearing about that.
Oh yes, MAGA self-reflection, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Very important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
No, these are really good questions. Good comments.
Yeah.
Really good
trying
comments.
to scroll through.
I know, there's lots of long ones, so it's hard to read them. It's hard to read them faster.
Yeah.
Oh, Carrie, that's awesome. Yeah, I mean, oddly enough, that's really cool if you can have your coworkers observe, or you observe another room,
Yeah.
right, to be able to hear from them. Or if you're a family child care provider, is there a way you could, have a sub come for an hour and you go to the, child care down the road and observe one another somehow, that would be great. And with the advent of video, I almost said recording, a little old school there, but with video and recording on, cell phones and such, of course, getting permission from the families, but maybe sharing, recordings between rooms or between, family child care programs, or even, nanny to nanny, thinking about your role, is remembering we're kind of all in this together, right? Networking among others who are like-minded, absolutely.
Yeah.
You might be competitor child care centers because you're across the road from one another. I'm thinking of these two that used to be, Helen will know what I'm talking about, these two programs that used to be across the street from one another. And, I always thought they're like competitors, man. You can like look outside the windows and like be like, oh, you've got one more family than we do type of thing. But yet, really, could they work together, right, to share ideas and support one another? That would be in an ideal world, right?
Yeah, and I love the comment, networking with others who are like-minded, Helen. Yeah. I think that is very important, because we all, as early childhood educators, our main focus and goal is to help children learn. I think that's kind of why we all got into it, right? And so play is one of the best ways that they can learn. So that's why I love, like I said, hearing different ideas that other people do, because there's, someone may have a fantastic idea, and why would we want to keep it to ourselves when we can share it with everyone else and really help so many more children as well.
Yeah, and Martha brings up an interesting point, that says you can't, signing paperwork that says you can't share ideas, and it's really more of an old school fear, of competition, and yes, of course there's going to be competition, but right now, there are so many open childcare slots, or so many families that need childcare right now, that should not be an issue for anybody. We need more teachers. And so, I think it's just opening our minds to the fact that maybe, there's a lot of different types of programs out there for a lot of different types of families.
Absolutely.
So,
and also too, it's, why would you want to keep an idea when you can help so many other people?
Yeah.
If it works for you, it's going to work for everyone, right? Or it's going to work well. And there are non-compete clauses. Some people have those, and that's unfortunate. But I think in the world now, and especially we are so virtual, there are so many different ideas out there. There's so many different people who post ideas and activities and things that sharing is really the best thing for everyone. We all want to be able to share those ideas with one another. Yeah.
One last thing that I wanted to ask people to put in the chat, if I can, Alyssa, is do you have any, since you're talking about like online things, like things in this world now, are there any blogs or websites that you follow, organizations that you follow that are really good about promoting play?
Or even influencers.
Yes, that use all of this information that Alyssa shared, that, share in pictures or video or websites. If you have any, put them in to the chat box, because I think then people can share. It's a good way to share.
Or even like YouTube channels or things like that too. Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, see, there goes some. So Fairy Dust Teaching, From Fingerprints to Masterpieces, American Journal of Play. And I think, isn't there international, I just had it yesterday, Association of Play?
Yeah, and no, isn't it the national? No.
International Play Association. I have to get the right order. I'm sure there's others too. 0 to 3, love 0 to 3. Good way to document process. Well, that's a good question.
Yeah. Yeah, that is a great question. I think even obviously depending on what sort of program you're in or how you're working with the parents or the families, right? Like in my line of work, the caregivers are interacting with the families on a daily basis, and so it's a recap at the end of the day of like, this is what we did today, this is what we worked on, here's some highlights from the day, here's what we're really proud of. But in centers, I know that a lot of times they'll have, or even in schools too, they'll have documents of checklists and things like that too, which aren't always the greatest, but adding those comments in there, and usually they're done on a quarterly or biannually basis or something. So those are good ways to keep track too, or even if you don't have that, keeping, a small journal or a running list of great interactions you're seeing with these children that you're working with on a daily basis, and making note of when you notice something new, or when you notice them moving from parallel play to associative play, or even to cooperative play, right? We're watching them move through those interactions as well. Oh, yep.
That's a good one. Awesome.
Perfect. Well, I have my contact info up on here too. Just as any other questions or anything certainly can still roll in. We still have a little bit of time together, but I have my contact information on here too for you if you have any questions about college nannies in general, or we're always looking to hire great nannies and even ad hoc babysitters for our families that we work with here. We're specifically in my office is specifically in the Twin Cities, Minnesota area, but we have offices all over the country. So even if someone was in Illinois, we've got offices in Illinois in different territories and franchisees, but kind of all throughout the U.S., which is exciting.
How has the need changed since the pandemic?
It's very, I don't have a pulse on it. I used to be able to tell families exactly what was going on, and now it's so very different. And right now, the biggest need that we're seeing is part-time nannies for ages probably newborn to maybe before they would start school, so 4 to 5 year olds. And it's usually maybe 2 to 3 days a week. Sometimes it's 5 days a week, but shorter hours. Sometimes it's fewer days a week, but longer hours.
Ooh, you have interested people on the chat over here.
North Carolina, yes. There were offices. Chicago, yes, there's there's offices in Chicago too. Anyone who is interested in connecting with the College Nannies office in their location, please email me and I will, I'll get you directly connected to the franchise in that area. Yes, absolutely. Please email me, Magda. South Carolina, I'm not 100% certain if there's a location there, but I know we have them in Florida, we're in Ohio, we're in Illinois, we're in Wisconsin, we're in Minnesota, Washington, California, Arizona, Texas, just about almost all of the states we've got some. So
very cool. Very, very cool. And we will be sending the certificate out in an email to everyone on the call within 48 business hours of today's session. And then we will also include with that, Alyssa sent a handout kind of, encapsulating everything. And so we'll send that to you along with it so you can reflect back. The recording will be available too on our oh my goodness, it is such a day. It'll be available on our School of Education. It is almost Friday. The School of Education guide page. So I'll even ask if they can put that link to the guide page there. You'll see recordings from other sessions that we've done within the recent past. And it is so hard, Rita, to find teachers right now. Yeah. It really is. Keep the faith. Talk about how amazing it is to work with the littles in our lives and what a great impact we will make on the future of this country and this world. So, but yeah, keep your eyes open for the email, and if you don't get it by Tuesday of next week, give me a holler. And I will, thanks, Helen. I actually am recovering from COVID, so it is likely COVID brain that I'm experiencing here. So stay safe, everyone that's in Minnesota and Wisconsin and everywhere around there. And thank you guys so much for coming. I appreciate your time. Thank you, Alyssa, for your knowledge tonight. And really reminding us of the critical developmental need for play. Yeah. That's super important, and a great conversation in the chat as well. Yeah. So thank you, everyone.
Yeah. Thank you, Mary, for having me, and thank you, everyone, for being so responsive in the chat. I love all of the ideas and the interactions that you guys were having. Fantastic.
Agreed. Well, have a great evening, everyone. Go take cover for those of you in Minnesota. Bye, everybody.
Bye.